Well, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Podcast Answer Man. Cliff Ravenscraft here, and you guys, dream come true. It's right here, live happening.
It's my dream come true. I have all these questions for you, Cliff.
Leo Laporte.
How do I make money?
Sorry,
I shouldn't yell.
You shouldn't yell. No, but I'll tell you what, Leo, it has been a great journey watching you and being inspired by you continually, and it's an honor to be here. And thank you for just opening up your studios to the world.
It's great. We have people from all over the world visit all the time. It's really fun, you know. It gives us feedback. When people throw stuff at us, then we actually feel it.
Now, Leo, I've learned about you way back when you and Kate Patello were doing screensavers on ZD-TV.
You must have been 8.
I was actually in my teens, I think. Yeah. So
high school.
Yeah, something like that. But anyway, I watched you guys because I was always into technology, and I loved everything you guys were doing. And I watched the journey of screensavers as it went through to Tech TV, and then, of course, unfortunately, seeing the network, go the wayside after a while. But I learned about podcasting by just going to leoville.com occasionally. Occasionally, I would go to Leoville. And
you and a lot of other people go there occasionally.
Occasionally.
Once in a while.
Well, the thing is, I mean, this is before you got into the podcasting, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't start. I mean, I was doing the radio show for years before I podcasted it. And that just was a question of making an RSS feed for it. So.
And I was there right at the time when you got that one young guy.
Matt Bischoff, who now works, he's a journalism student in New York City, and he just texted me. He's still around. It's great. He's really involved in new media and computers and technology. But he told me in October 2004, yeah, there's this thing called podcasting. I think he was 16. And I said, what is it? And he said, well, don't you know? You make an RSS feed. I said, well, I was already putting the radio show on the website to download, so it was very easy. I handcrafted the RSS, and I would update it with a text editor every time I had a new show. But I made it a podcast.
So you made it a podcast. When you started doing that, how long was it before you got together with some of the folks and started the first Twit? I remember listening to that first episode, but how long ago?
Yeah, we called it the Revenge of the Screensavers for the first 3 episodes and the G4 complaint. So that was a few months later. It was at Macworld in January 2005. Kevin and I and David Prager, Patrick Norton, his wife Sarah, Roger Chang. We were at Brewpub, the 21st Amendment. And because I was radio guy, I had my microphone and recorder. I had been going around Macworld recording stuff. 2004 Macworld, what were we talking about then? I don't know. 2005 Macworld. I should go back and look. It was pre-iPhone. It was probably an iPod announcement that day. But we were talking, and I thought, well, I should start my recorder, because these kinds of conversations are my bread and butter. It's every tech journalist does this, where you'll get together with other journalists. You say, what's new, what's happening, especially at conferences. What did you see? So I thought, well, it might be kind of fun for people. I'll record this and they could hear it. I did. It was only 20 minutes long. It was pretty silly. People often email me, even to this day, and say, Twit's really gone downhill. You used to cover tech news. Now it's just silly. And I say, you really weren't listening, were you? It's always been silly.
It was silly.
It was always silly. It was a bunch of guys and gals, old friends, getting together, talking about stuff we loved, and joking with each other. And I think that was why people liked it. I put it up on the website. It wasn't a podcast, but I let people download it. Couldn't be a podcast. There was only one. And I think 20,000 people downloaded the first one. So that kind of light bulb went off in my head. Maybe I could make a podcast out of this. The problem was Kevin was in LA doing G4. Roger was in San Francisco. Patrick was in San Francisco. People were all over the place. I was up here in Petaluma, an hour north. And at the time, I thought, well, we can't ever do this because we have to all be in the same room, and it's not going to happen, as we were for that first one. And then it was around April of that year that somebody called the radio show with Skype. And it sounded good. It sounded better than a phone call. And I thought, wow, you could do Skype audio, and it sounds like they're in the same room. So a second light bulb, I had a lot of light bulbs going. I'm a slow learner. Second light bulb went on, and I thought, oh, maybe I could do a show via Skype. And at the time, we were using Skype's conferencing, which was terrible. So we'd have one Skype call with 5 people on it, which, when I listen to those shows, it's just painful. And part of what doesn't show up on those shows, because I would spend hours trying to save them, is the pain before the show, getting everything working, sometimes an hour to get everything working, and then the pain afterwards, many, many hours. We would finish Sunday night, and sometimes we'd be there till 1 or 2 in the morning trying to make something out of this stinking heap of noisiness. For a long time, we did that. But the technology got better. I got better. We figured out ways to do it better. We added video a couple of years later, and it's just grown bit by bit. So it went from Twit, which was originally the Revenge of the Screensavers in April of 2005. I think shortly thereafter we started doing Security Now with Steve Gibson. I was still going to Canada 1 week a month doing a G4 Tech TV in Canada. So I couldn't do during the week. I couldn't do what we're doing right now. And we added shows. We now have 25 shows. We broadcast 30 or 40 hours a week. We do daily news with Tom Merritt. We do a lot more stuff than we did before. And we have this beautiful studio.
I have about 3 or 4 questions I'd love to ask you. And I know the answers to all these questions because I listen to a lot of your in-between show stuff. But I wanted, for the prosperity of my audience, to have them hear some of the things that you're going. Are you able to tell us about how much revenue you're generating here at Twit these days?
Yeah, well, 2005, 0.
Yep.
Actually, you know what? We always made money on Twit because I think even in 2005, I told people, well, we'd like to keep doing this, but there are costs. If you'd like to donate, please do. And even then, I think people were already, initially, we still do this, by the way. We say $2 a month is a suggested amount. It's always free. You don't have to, but if you'd like to, it would help us out. And we were making $8,000 or $9,000 a month from beginning of doing that. And that was more than enough to cover my time, the costs of it. So I shouldn't say we were zero in year one. Year one, we probably made, gross revenues of probably $60,000 or $70,000 in year one. I said at the time, I'm not going to sell ads. I don't like the idea of doing ads. I would rather just have it be listener supported. But what we learned pretty quickly is that only 1 or 2% of the people who listen ever donate. Most people don't. People are used to free media, advertising supported media. So I kind of gave in. I had been talking with a guy named Mark McCrary at PodTrack, which was a podcast focused ad agency, even as early as 2005. And I told him at the time, Mark, I'm never going to sell ads, but I'll be glad to talk to you because I give you the perspectives of the advertisers, or rather the podcasters towards advertising, so you can do a better job for other podcasters. And so we stayed in touch. And by 2007, I think I went back to him and said, okay, sell some ads. I can't expand. We got our first advertiser I sold. It was a company that approached us called Astaro. And very forward-thinking, the guy who was working for them at the time, great guy, I've stayed in touch with him, contacted me and said, hey, we'd like to buy some ads. And I said, I don't know how much to charge you. I think we charged for our first ads $2,500. That was to reach 70,000 people a week. So we set our first CPM fairly low. When PodTrack started selling it, I think we were charging $30 per 1,000, which is roughly what we were charging for Staro's ads. But we did start making money. I think by 2007, I think we grossed $300,000 in advertising in that year. 2008, it was about $600,000 in advertising. 2009, it was about $1.2 million. It doubled each year. I hired more staff. I hired a business partner who really made a big difference. She's much more accomplished than I am at business, and so she was able to run the business side because I was doing 10 shows a week. I didn't have time. The way we made money was me doing shows, so I need somebody else to run the business side. So we outsourced advertising to PodTrack, to Mark McCrary. They still do all our sales. I used Lisa Kensel as our CEO. It's a business partner, did all the biz dev, did all the hiring of people, running of the staff. In 2010, last year, we made $4 million. Made is the wrong word. Grossed $4 million. We spend about half or more, 50% profit margin. This year we will do probably between 5 and 6 million this year. All advertising, all sold through PodTrack. We probably won't have a profit this year because we spent $1.2 million on the studio. We still ask for donations, not purely for financial reasons, but to give people a chance to feel some ownership in it. And one of the things we did was so successful, we had a brick drive. We have a fundraiser. We used a company called Fundraisers Limited, and people were able to buy bricks with an inscription on it. We sold 1,800 of them, almost $250,000 worth of bricks. They're all in our lobby. And again, it certainly helped defray the unexpectedly high cost of building a new studio, but it also, I think, really gave our audience a way to buy into it. And I really think it's important. As I do this, I realize how important it is to engage the audience and make them feel like they're a part of it, not a passive consumer watching something, but actually a part of a larger community.
So $5 to $6 million this year, which is amazing, by the way.
Yeah, no kidding.
The big, huge push for video, obviously, and things of that nature. And I already know the answer to this, but I'd love for my audience to hear it. How much of that 5 to 6 million would you say is coming in from advertising from video versus the audio? Where's that breakdown?
We don't actually make that distinction, but I can kind of give you an idea. We charge the same CPM. Our CPM is now $80, by the way. $80 per 1,000 impressions. And we charge the same CPM for audio and video. So we charge an advertiser an aggregate of those two. And we add a little estimated bump for the number of people watching live. So, but I can kind of break it down. So a show like, say, Twit, which is our largest show, which has about somewhere between 175 and 200,000 views for each episode. Maybe there's 5,000 to 7,000 live viewers. Video on that show, now some shows have a higher video audience than audio, but on that show, it's a talking head show. It's about 80% video, 20%, 80% audio, 20% video. So you could say that of the money we make, 75% is from the audio downloads, 20% is from the video downloads, and 5% is from the live streaming downloads.
Excellent.
Something like that.
And one final question here is, if somebody's out there and they're thinking about creating an audio podcast, is it too late? Did they miss the boat?
No. But I'll say the same thing I said. I spoke at the first Podcast Expo in 2005, I guess it was, and again in 2006. And I'll say the same thing. In 2005, I said, podcast your passion. Do something you love. Do it because you love it. And in 2006, I said, don't chase the money. Because it's going to be very hard to make money at this. Do it, and I would say that the vast majority of podcasters know I was right. You're doing it because you love it, or because you have something to say, or because you have a contribution to make. I would say the number of podcasters who, you know better than I, because this is your field, but I would say the number of podcasters who actually can make more than it costs to do the podcast is probably in the hundreds, not the thousands.
That would be...
And there are probably then several thousand more that kind of defray their costs with some ad sales. But 90%, 95% never will see any money. So you do it because you love it.
Absolutely.
You don't do it because you want to get rich. And you certainly shouldn't look at what we did at Twit and say, I can do that. Because, somebody once asked me, how do you create another Twit? Well, you start with 6 years on a failed cable network. You build an audience. I've been building this audience for 20 years in radio and television, and then made the transition. I had a lot of skills from those media that I was able to bring to bear. I had the equipment because I was doing it already, and I've been extraordinarily lucky and amazingly supported by a community that every day just blows me away. So those things, I don't know how duplicatable they are. But I would say this, I believe that we are the forerunner in a new medium that I won't call podcasting. I've decided to call it micro-broadcasting, where the idea is, whether you do audio, video, or live, that you are aiming at a narrow niche of people, of enthusiasts, whether it is knitting, Pez dispensers, or technology, but you're aiming at a known narrow niche of people. And if you can hit that niche well, those people, as my audience has, those people will support you, and you can make a living doing this, and you can even build something like Twit. But we are very early in this. Yeah. One of the reasons it works for us is because we're covering technology. So our audience has the means to figure out and the inclination to figure out how to get these shows. It's going to be a while before everybody and their brother, but it's getting there. TVs now are all internet connected. More and more people are watching Netflix. That's really good for us. It trains people to use the internet to watch shows. Roku boxes, really good for us. So all of these things are moving in the direction of letting people watch or listen to shows on their home systems or in their car or on their smartphone, just as they would listen to a radio or television show, of years past. As we get parity with traditional broadcasters, I think micro-broadcasting is the future. And people were saying 500 channels. That's crazy. When John Malone, they asked him, how many cable channels will there be? And he just pulled a number out of his butt. He said, 500 channels. Well, there are 500,000 channels now. It is crazy. And so the trick is to aim it at an audience that you know, that you are a part of, that you love, that you understand, that you can so super serve. And by super serving that audience, by building a community, I think you can actually have success. I do believe that in the next decade there will be hundreds of micro broadcasters like Twitter's. We now are able to do television that is effectively as good as commercial television out of this studio. That's what I call micro broadcasting. We're not trying to become a large network. I learned that lesson at Tech TV. Tech TV diluted itself by trying to reach a larger audience than the enthusiast. We're aimed at the tech enthusiast. We don't want a larger audience. We want to serve them better. And we believe that by serving them better, we will be financially more viable.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, out of everything you've proposed in the past, I like micro broadcasting.
Yeah, I hated podcasting. You know, in 2005, I
did.
tried to talk people out of it, and that was a flop. It is podcasting in most people's mind, but to me, what do you call this live streaming thing we do?
Yeah.
You know, I think we're broadcasters. I think we create shows. And we distribute them on the internet, but they're no different than broadcast television or broadcast radio.
I understand, and I completely agree with that. And at the same time, though, the basics, the one distribution channel called podcasting, audio or video tied to an RSS and delivered, there's still a future. It's not dead.
Oh gosh, it's far from dead, and we do it, and we will always do it.
I just got Leo to say podcasting's not dead.
Oh no, but what's happened is it's transformed. I think it's going to flip where we make podcasts as a convenience to people, so they can, if they miss the show, they can get it later.
Yeah.
But I believe that the future, at least for me, is live streaming.
And if you believe that, and you set it as your goal, and you won't accept anything other than success, you'll make it happen.
Well, I hope that's true.
I hope so too.
We made a big bet. We made $1 million bet on it, and it hasn't happened yet. But I do believe that in time, this will be the preferred way because it's easier for people to watch. They'll watch live like they would a television network.
I will say that I was watching, I was bored one day and I had a few minutes to spare and I went to live.twit.tv. I called
It's easy.
It was easy. I called Twit. I was like 7 minutes into it. I hadn't yet, it's downloaded. I hadn't yet listened to the first 7 minutes. So it's like I missed a little bit. I started watching and I will tell you, it cut off and went into a live and it's like,
Well, there are things we have to solve,
I know.
and that's
No,
one of
yeah,
them.
and you will.
Ideally, we'd be live 24/7.
Here's the thing. Back when I watched Screensavers on TV and it rebroadcast a couple times, I loved it.
We run the Screensavers 4 or 5 times in an hour.
Leo, I know you have to go.
What will happen, I believe, now let me finish this.
No, you speak as long as you want.
What will happen, they're giving me the rap sign. What will happen, I believe, is that we have the technology. The distinction between live and on tape is artificial, having to do with the nature of broadcasting. We have the technology for you to go to a channel and watch whatever you want.
Yeah.
So if you go to the Roku box, you can watch us live, or you can watch an older show, and it doesn't matter. You do whatever suits you at the time. If you want to see breaking news or something, you see what people are talking about right now, you'll watch live. If you say, oh, I really missed that security now, I want to see that, you'll watch that. We have to break out, and this is very important, we have to break out of the box of broadcasting. There's a lot of rules that broadcasting makes, things like shows are 22 minutes and 44 minutes, that have to do with the nature of broadcasting, that we as internet casters don't need to do, as microcasters don't need to do. And so it's really important. I have to do this constantly. Oh, do I have to do that? No, that's just tradition. Yeah. Forget the traditions of broadcasting and start thinking about how technology enables us as microcasters to do it better.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. My pleasure, Cliff.